Will Goshi and Don get the magic elixir in time to keep Burai from dying? Find out in our next episode. Burai dies. Gotta love those next episode previews, which are not typically found in the 24th episode of the all-new Mighty Morphin Zyurangers. Welcome back to a new year and a very special review. Everyone seems to heap praise on Green with Evil, but for me, the green candle has always been where it's at. I said last year that Calamity Kimberly was the first episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers I remember seeing as a kid, but those memories are hazy. I don't even think I saw the whole thing. The two parts of the green candle were what turned 7-year-old me into a Power Rangers fan. These two episodes are the ones I probably know better and have seen more times than any other. And that's because they're the first episodes I recorded. So, whatever impression Calamity Kimberly made on me, it was enough to inspire me to devote precious VHS tape space alongside my current favorite at the time, Tiny Toon Adventures. And unbeknownst to me when I hit record, it just happened to be the first airing of one of the most important episodes of the season, the end of the Green Ranger. It was this tape, in case you were curious. Yeah, I still have it. Gotta love my little artwork from nearly 30 years ago. Before I get too self-indulgent though, let's get into this. The 3 episodes that make up the end of Burai's storyline are the culmination of his entire tenure on the show. Before Burai even joins the Zyurangers, we learn his life is tied to a burning candle. Bandora has come up with plans to lure him out of his timeless room and waste as much of that time as she can. Here, she finally succeeds. Burai dies. Permanently. Aside from a couple of cameos, he is no longer part of Zyuranger after this. These are big, status quo changing episodes, and Power Rangers has to address it in some way. Tommy has to exit the show. However, the character is not going to die. They didn't even have the guts to kill a sympathetic monster. You really think they're going to kill off a Ranger in 1993? Surprisingly though, the adaptation is at least somewhat similar. Power Rangers creates a ticking clock in which Rita will once again take control of Tommy's powers. It's through her green candle, so yay! They're finally adapting the candle idea. Goldar keeps it in the same dark dimension set Jason was trapped in during Green with Evil. And yeah, any footage of Goldar with the candle was created specifically for Power Rangers. The villains have nothing to do with the candle in Zyurangers, so those plots are consolidated here. Power Rangers goes to great effort to streamline this story. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Power Rangers starts strong, indicating immediately that this isn't your standard plot. Putties attack Kimberly and Tommy, and unlike most putty fights, the heroes struggle, and eventually lose. This isn't just a cool action scene to kill time, it's ratcheting up the tension. The putties steal Kimberly's morpher and she can do nothing as Tommy is captured and taken by Goldar to the Dark Dimension. Meanwhile, Rita commissions a new monster, the Cyclops, who can take on any form. With Tommy gone, Cyclops can transform into the Dragon Zord and trick the Power Rangers into thinking she already has control over the Green Ranger powers. Or at least that would be the tension here, if not for the fact that Zordon immediately tells them it's an imposter, rendering the monster's entire gimmick pointless. Yeah, that deflates things quite a bit. I really don't get why they did this. There's a great exchange here.
What about Tommy?
We'll have to take him down too.
That's drama! They think Tommy is their enemy again! For 5 whole seconds. Why kill it in the cradle? See, in Zyuranger, Dora Gonsaku meaning fake, fulfills multiple important purposes. A side effect is that the confused bystanders caught in the crossfire have finally had enough of being killed by giant robots and decide to stone the Zyurangers to death. Wow, that's pretty violent. It also goes nowhere. In fact, due to the power of editing, the Zyurangers get out of this pinch in between episodes, and the confusion and animosity are never resolved. So while it does further increase the tension and hopelessness, Power Rangers does a good thing consolidating this plot out of existence. However, what's important is that the Zyurangers believe that Dragon Caesar is on the rampage. That's what Bandora wants them to think because she wants Burai to leave his timeless room to help. See, there's this bit in Power Rangers where Rita uses a map and a tiny proxy of her wand to find out where Tommy and Kimberly are so she can attack them. It's a very cute and memorable bit. But when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. Since when does Rita need additional trickery to track the Rangers? She spies on them all the time, knowing their every move, even, as we'll see in this two-parter, while they're in Zordon's protected command center. In Zyuranger, she's waiting for the moment that Burai leaves his room because she's devised a way to track where he's coming from. It's only after Burai takes the bait and accidentally summons the real Dragon Caesar that they all figure out Gansaku's trickery. And Bandora arrives to gloat that they fell for her trap as she beats Burai back to the room and completely destroys it, leaving the candle to burn the rest of the way. And as silly as Bandora and Rita can be, she is quite a sight to behold here. Not only destroying the Timeless Room, but also single-handedly kicking Burai's ass 6 ways from Sunday. It's a shame Power Rangers couldn't have used this somehow. In a sense, this bit with the map marks the beginning of the end moment for their respective shows. In Zyuranger, it's where the ticking clock begins in earnest. For Power Rangers, it's when the villains get their hands on Tommy and... well, actually, nothing really changes at all. In Part 2, Zordon will say that Tommy's proximity to the candle accelerates its burning, but that seems like an excuse to give Jason something to do. Tangibly speaking, Tommy is only captured so that Goldar can monologue the evil plan to him so that when Tommy inevitably escapes, he can let everyone else know what the evil plan is. So, you know, these guys are a bunch of evil geniuses. If they had skipped the monster and skipped the kidnapping, they could have just let their candle safely burn down until it was too late for the Power Rangers to do anything about it. And I think this is everyone's biggest problem with the concept of the green candle. Its backstory is that it has the ability to drain Tommy's power because he touched it while he worked for Rita. Because of that, everyone rightly asks, including me back in 2010,
why wait until now to use it?
But I actually have a bigger issue with it now because not writing it that way would have fixed the story. What if Tommy hadn't touched the candle when he was evil? Well, in that case, the bad guys would have to, I don't know, kidnap Tommy and force him to touch the candle in order to set their plan into motion. What a concept! The Green with Evil storyline was easy to cover on this video series because most of the Power Rangers episodes correspond exactly to their Zyuranger counterparts. Only the last 2 Dragon Ranger episodes were condensed into one Power Rangers episode. Here, the 3 episodes leading to Burai's death are shortened to 2 for Power Rangers. They don't really line up evenly. One reason why is because the first episode of this Zyuranger 3-parter, Burai's deathly departure, is a clip show. Well, kind of. I'd say about half of it is a clip show, and I don't mean that in the sense that it's padded out with cheap wraparounds that only exist to give context to the clips. The other half does move the story along, getting as far as the Zyurangers fighting Dora Gansaku. The episode moves at a fairly leisurely pace compared to the other 2, and as far as trimming things to get the storyline down to 2 episodes for Power Rangers, this is an obvious choice. But I actually think the clips are good here. They aren't long enough to really bog things down. Given that it's been a few years now since I've seen some of these, I was actually feeling excited watching these moments again. And it caused me to realize that the music that plays during the absolute coolest moment of Zyuranger, Saori's Charge, is actually from a vocal insert song, Kibo no Tsurugi, or Sword of Hope, which plays during the clips montage here. Have I mentioned that Saori is the best character? Unfortunately, even though we already found the best kid character, we have to settle for Kota instead. He's fine, but the Kid of the Week is another one of the threads of this tapestry that Power Rangers decided to do without. Yes, even the intense melodrama of Burai's death has to make room for a Kid of the Week. And that plot runs the spectrum, serving as both the emotional core and by far the silliest aspect of this story. Burai has been having a recurring nightmare throughout these episodes. He's standing on a pier when a rickshaw comes to pick him up, except that it's taking him to the land of the dead. As if that wasn't scary enough, eventually the nightmare shows a child sitting on a bench. The driver tells Burai the kid is waiting for the next one. Once Bondora has destroyed the Timeless Room and Burai has no hope for himself, he decides to seek this kid out to save his life. Thankfully, this is a children's TV show, so he finds Kota within seconds, who is understandably creeped out by this weepy stranger who keeps asking him if he's feeling alright. Until he realizes that Burai is a Zyuranger, then it's party time, baby! So let's say that you're Burai. You have a reasonably certain premonition that your new friend is destined to die. What do you do with him? Why, you prop him up on the head of a moving, 60-foot giant robot who frequently gets tossed around by monsters. Let's run headfirst into danger. What could possibly go? Oh, God! Burai. I know this isn't the time to be pointing fingers, but this is not your finest moment. Like so many other elements, this serves to ratchet up the drama, but couldn't we have done it in a way that doesn't make Burai look this incredibly stupid? I thought you were trying to save the kid, not make the prophecy come true. Meanwhile, Barza has figured out a possible ancient remedy to save Burai. There's a life-restoring elixir in a sacred land that's only accessible by prayer. When the Zyurangers pray, the gods take away their dino bucklers. As we've established, the gods in this universe are not very nice people. At the very least, they allow Dan and Goshi to search and fight for the elixir. Ultimately, though, the goddess turns out to be Clotho, who likes to screw with these guys until the bitter end. She explains that death in this universe works like Dragon Ball rules. You can't come back to life more than once. Burai's already had his second chance, so there's nothing to be done about him. But as a lovely parting gift, go ahead and take the elixir. That way we can at least save the life of the child Burai so stupidly endangered. I make fun of it, because it is stupid, but the idea at the heart of it, that the effort to save Burai isn't for naught because it saves someone else, is powerful. It would just be more powerful if it wasn't so ridiculous. Oh, and eventually the gods give the heroes back their powers, when they randomly decide to stop acting like jerks. And that allows the Zyurangers to finally finish off Dora Gansaku, right at the moment Burai runs out of time. It's obvious that Zyuranger's plan is to deliver a sprawling epic, filled with all kinds of escalation. Nearly everything that can go wrong does. It creates an aura of soul-crushing hopelessness that ends in despair with only the slightest hint of victory. Since Power Rangers cuts out the kid, and the quest, and the lack of powers, and the angry mob, and the death, what is it left with? Well, the green candle laser focuses on Tommy. This is about the threat to his powers and nothing else, and it benefits in knowing exactly what it is without meandering. For example, rather than there being a candle and a quest, retrieving the candle becomes the quest. The story might be thinner, but the tight focus draws out the best attributes of the characters. Be it Kimberly fretting over Tommy after she couldn't save him, Jason volunteering to return to the site of his most traumatic moment to retrieve the candle, or Tommy volunteering to fight Cyclops alone while the rest of the Rangers are busy trying to save his powers. Billy gets some use, creating these silly-looking props that can open a portal to the other dimension. When the action gets too hot for Tommy, and Zordon recalls the other Rangers, Zack has to enter this nightmare dimension to retrieve Jason, and has the best exchange of the episode.
What if I don't get the candle in time and lose his powers?
If we don't get to him in time, he'll lose his life.
As usual, only Trini gets the short end of the stick here.
According to Rita, my power's gonna be gone soon.
She's just bluffing, Tommy, trying to scare you. How would she be able to take away your power?
But because the Rangers abandon the candle by the time they've taken care of the monster, it's too late for the Green Ranger. Despite not being able to share any footage, the episodes wrap up fairly similarly. Before the end, the fallen Ranger passes on his powers to the leader. The only difference is, Burai dies while Tommy just goes away. Yes, Tommy exits the show after this point, despite there not being any logical reason for him to do so. He still goes to school with them. But I think it's for the best. Tommy doesn't have to die for this to be emotional, it still is. But there has to be some kind of cost. Even if it doesn't make any sense, Tommy leaving the cast makes it feel like there were actual stakes. And obviously in the long term, Tommy's not going anywhere. Bookending Tommy's story is the culmination of the romantic subplot. The two-parter opens with Zach encouraging Tommy to ask Kimberly to a dance. At the end, after he's no longer a Power Ranger, Tommy and Kimberly finally kiss, and they make plans to go to the dance together. Looking at the final scenes, the two shows have completely different philosophies. Zyurangers is that you can't cheat fate. Bad things are going to happen. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting. Doing the right thing is worth it regardless. Even if you end up battered and broken and grieving, you can at least hope that what you've sacrificed does some good somewhere, illustrated by the empty bench seen during Burai's final ride. If Zyuranger is about fate, then Power Rangers is about choice. Tommy chooses to act on his feelings for Kimberly and is rewarded. Jason chooses to abandon his quest because Tommy's life is more important than his powers. Rita's goal is to reclaim the Green Ranger, but because Tommy chooses to give the powers to Jason instead, Rita doesn't get them and so loses. It's bittersweet, but it's a much more hopeful message. When I first learned of how Zyuranger handled this story, I was in awe of the far higher stakes, the downer ending, the kinds of things Power Rangers wouldn't let me see. There is certainly merit to that. But I also don't think Power Rangers necessarily needs a death to successfully write out Tommy. In this case, I don't think it would have been thematically appropriate. There's always been a shadow hanging over Burai. He's the guy who takes his great power, wherever it comes from, and uses it to hurt, kill, subjugate. Then he just joins up with the good guys, never having to answer for those crimes. It almost feels like this had to happen, as penance, as balance. Tommy is never responsible for anything he does while working for Rita. It's not his fault. It's not in his control. He doesn't deserve karmic retribution. So while lowering the stakes is certainly a result of matching our delicate Western sensibilities, it fits the story they'd been telling with this character. Both of these philosophies are valid, and while both stories created from them are flawed, they're both compelling. It's hard for me to be objective about this one. The green candle is what defines my childhood Power Rangers fandom. This is what drew me in, this very atypical two-parter. As a 7-year-old, I'd rarely, if ever, seen a show with sacrifice and loss, melodrama and romance. Oh, I especially loved the romance. I probably ran those last two scenes back so many times I'm amazed I haven't worn out that tape. I think it's fair to say that this story helped define the elements that drew me into stories, even as my tastes became more sophisticated. Looking back, it's a bit thin, but I can't help but love it. And when I checked out Zyuranger as an adult, Burai Dies is certainly the episode I came back to the most times. I don't know if I can pit these against each other. Alright, fine, let's do this. And no individuals, I'm doing it as a group. The individual episodes don't correspond in any real way, and this is getting long enough already. For story, it really depends on how you look at it. Zyuranger certainly has much more story. It delivers a grand epic with so many branching paths. But on the other hand, Power Rangers whittles that down to what it needs, delivering an economical story that zeroes in on its main point. I'm going to give it a tie. For characters, I, as usual, have to give credit to Power Rangers for making the most out of its cast, whereas Zyuranger does not. Can you really say May and Boy contributed here? Dawn and Goshi have a quest, but little characterization to speak of. Well, Goshi gets a moment during the clip show bookends to buoy Geki up. At the end of the day, Burai's struggle elevates its show in a way that Power Rangers doesn't quite reach, but Kota is nothing but a cipher. Power Rangers carries more of its characters to more satisfying places, so I'm going to give this to it, but barely. For action, Power Rangers gives us a putty fight that actually feels tense, as well as dangerous moments for both Tommy and Jason. Zyuranger has random bystanders trying to stone the heroes to death, which would carry a lot of weight, except that it amounts to nothing. But in terms of its direction, Zyuranger really drives the emotion home. From its eerie framing device, to its literal ticking clock, to its music, to Burai dying on a beach, complete with a little crab crawling across him, to Clotho opening her hand to show the dying candle. Zyuranger does far more to wring out its emotional reactions. I'm giving it to Zyuranger, which means, thankfully, mercifully, for my poor soul, I get to give this one a tie. I don't care if it's a cop-out, it's the best I can do. This is top tier for both shows, and I'm amazed Power Rangers hits that level. This is the first time I've done a Power Rangers related video since the unexpected passing of Jason David Frank, who played Tommy, in November of last year. And I knew that just the way it happened to work out, my very next episode comparison would be the one where his character's Japanese counterpart was going to die. I don't really know what to say about the timing of that. It is kind of odd. Honestly though, for me, I hope it's clear that there is no better tribute I can give to Frank's legacy than reviewing The Green Candle. There is no other episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that left a bigger impact on my tiny child psyche. Not long after seeing this, the Dragon Zord with bundled Green Ranger action figure became my first Power Rangers toys. For so many kids, Jason David Frank ultimately became the face of the Power Rangers franchise. The Green Candle was ultimately not the end for Tommy, not by a long shot. I can say with as much certainty that Jason David Frank's death is by no means the end of his legacy. What his work helped give to so many kids of so many generations will live on in all of us who experienced it. I hope at least he knew how much joy he brought so many people. What better legacy is there than that?